guys, welcome to episode 37 of the Bearzi Podcast. I got my buddy Jon Kuhn, who was actually on the pod over a year ago on episode 15, which seems like an eternity ago. And Jon is a fellow YouTuber, filmmaker, content creator, creative person, and a great thinker that I've wanted to talk to since we had our first episode, and I'm excited to have you back. So how you doing, bro?
Good, man. Thanks for saying such nice words about me. It's always shocking. Makes me feel so uncomfortable to get compliments. But I like it
really?
too. It's weird. Yeah. I hate it. It's like very paradoxical. It's my favorite thing and my least favorite thing.
Do you get that like imposter syndrome feeling?
Oh yeah. It doesn't ever go away, and I kind of like actively try to seek it out now. Like I was afraid of it for a long time, and I couldn't figure it out. But now I see imposter syndrome as like an indication that I am pushing myself into like at least for myself uncharted territory.
I see.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let me tell you, let me tell the listeners a brief story about how we met and why this kind of conversation came around. But I remember, I don't know if you remember this, like maybe 2019, early 2020, we were all like creating YouTube videos, and there was this like small community of people and creators that we were commenting on each other's videos, we were watching each other's stuff, and we were being like very supportive of one another and giving each other tips. And over the years, that number of people slowly dwindled from like 25 to 20 to 15 to 10. And now, 2.5 years later, there's only 2 people left from that initial group that still create videos that I follow. One is you, and the other is this guy from Germany who I had on the podcast again. And I found it very interesting because I know you're sort of like in the self-improvement world, kind of like I am, where we're trying to better your life, try to better yourself, and help other people along the way. And it's kind of rough when you see so many people start down the right path, but then like 95% of them quit and they kind of give up in trying to improve their life or trying to add a new habit. And creating a YouTube channel was one of these things that I really saw where all these people just kind of gave up and quit, and now their channels are dead. And I have respect for you because you have continually created videos on a consistent basis, whether it is weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or whatever. You're still putting out content consistently over a long period of time. And that's something that I really, really respect in someone, especially a creative who can kind of push through and keep showing up every single day, because this is not an easy thing to do. As you know, like being a creative person and creating content is very difficult. And I've seen so many people give up along the way.
Yeah. I think it's completely expected or to be expected in any endeavor. I think you get the kind of the bell curve effect, right? You get people that are going to succeed and be dedicated, and you're going to get people that quit at the beginning, and then you're going to get people that try to like maintain in some way. And if we did a large poll, maybe that curve would be much more evident. And I don't know if you're asking about like why or how I've still stayed motivated, but I will tell you that I view YouTube more as like a long game. And I think much more about longevity in everything I do, even like my fitness. I'm like, what does this look like 10 years from now? Of course, I want a video to go viral and to get like 1 million views and to have that boost. But I also know like when I picture what that actually looks like, it doesn't feel sustainable in my life. So I'm being much more patient about it. Like I also knew I did stand-up comedy for 7 years before I did YouTube, and I actually underestimated grossly how much time it would take to get comfortable on camera. But I knew that the first few years would just be me trying to figure out how to edit for YouTube, what I wanted to do. So I was like very, very much familiar with the process of like trying to find your voice in a creative medium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, the stand-up comedy thing, I respect that, because I have a bucket list of things that I want to do before I die, and one of them is going to an open mic night
Oh,
and
don't do
just
that.
doing like a 5-minute set.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that is not because I think I'm funny. I am definitely not a funny person at all. None of my friends think I'm funny. Like, I don't have any good jokes. But stand-up comedy is one of the things that I would say I fear the most or makes me the most uncomfortable. And so I have a list of these things where I want to do the things that makes me extremely, extremely uncomfortable. And in the beginning, like as a freelance videographer, like dealing with clients and doing weddings, like I was fearful of doing wedding gigs because I heard far too many stories from my friends of bridezillas and memory cards dying and footage getting lost, and it's just like this complete nightmare. So I've had all these fears about things, but what I've noticed is whenever I force myself to do the thing that makes me the most uncomfortable, that is when I benefit the most. Like, is my goal to be a comedian? No, of course not. But I want to try to force myself to try to overcome that fear and try to do something that's extremely, extremely difficult. And I think there's value in that because far too many people live a life of comfort where they just run away from the things that are difficult and they run away from the things that they're scared of. And so I've sort of been on this crusade of wanting to do things. And look, like a 5-minute open mic night, I'm probably going to bomb. People are probably going to cringe, but and I'm going to be sweating and I'm going to be all nervous, but at the end of the day, I'll feel comfortable knowing that I at least tried, right? And tried and put my best effort in that 5 minutes. So it's something that's on my list of things that hopefully I one day do.
Unsolicited advice. Do not tell the crowd, I am not funny, because they'll believe you and then they'll be mad. They're like, why are you going to do this to us then? You have to let them figure it out for themselves. You have to like create a moment for them for that 5 minutes. People want to be tricked, and like people do want to be comfortable. People want to be spoon-fed. That's why you tell everyone the complete narrative at the beginning. No one cares how the story ends. They actually want to know, so that way they can decide to sit there and be taken on a journey. And then if you tell them at the beginning, this is going to be a painful experience for you, so have fun, they're going to be like, no, why? And then you're going to feel like they hate you, and it's going to be an accurate feeling because they will hate you because you're taking minutes away that they're never going to get back. So I follow a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, a guy named Chad Wright, who is openly homophobic, and I kind of hate that about him. And I recently I mock performed fellatio on him in an Instagram story, and he DM'd me, and I'm terrified that he's going to come kill me. But I still follow him because he has really great like life advice. He's been on like a lot of like all the big podcasts and stuff, and he's been talking and sharing, these tactics that the Navy SEALs use, kind of like what Goggins is doing and like Jocko will do. And he did a thing recently where he tied his hands behind his back and his feet together and jumped in the pool. I don't know if you've seen the Navy SEAls do this. But no. you do it to teach yourself to thrive in adverse situations, because the only way that you don't drown is by remaining calm, exhaling on the way down, and expelling all of your air from your body, and then realizing that you are in 10 to 12 feet of water and knowing that you have to bounce your ankles and time yourself as you're coming down the pool, and then you bounce. And not too much and not too little, because you want to make sure you get up out of the water, get another breath before you sink back down. A lot of people fail at this, especially the first few times they do it. I used to have this, it was a half-baked concoction of a theory, but I used to think this about when I was taking psychedelics. I would eat as many as I could to make myself go on the most extreme trip, so that way I could be prepared for anything that life threw at me. And I feel like it's kind of like an atypical male biological trait to be able to like run into the burning building. But I think some people do it better than others. And I've been in plenty of situations, car crashes, things happen on the side of the road, fights in public. And I've been able to stay calm in almost all those situations. And I think it's because I've always understood the value of what you were just saying, and it's the value that's found in doing uncomfortable things. It's not about you being a comedian. It's not about in case you ever get tied up with your hands behind your back and thrown into a pool. It's like, If someone's just trying to kill you and they throw you into the pool with your hands tied up and they see you bobbing in and out of the water, they're just going to hit you on your head. So it's not a survival technique, like necessarily. It's a survival technique for your mind, not for your body or physical applications. It's about understanding that there's only so much you can control, and usually it's how you respond to the situation, and that's the only thing you can ever actually control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Man, that's interesting. So that guy, he's openly homophobic? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he got really into the Bible when he was yeah. Well, he was, I would imagine, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not a therapist, and if I were a therapist, I would never give a diagnosis publicly about someone else. But since all of that's out of the way, I feel like when you're in an extreme situation, like being in a combat zone, you can become more vulnerable, and you're easily you're more vulnerable, and you're easy to manipulate and to fall really into, like, let's say, the Bible. And he got really extreme with it when he was overseas. And one of the things that he's latched onto is that men are weak, which is probably true, right? Men are becoming weaker, or at least we are privy to all the weak incel men that exist. And he thinks that one of the problems is homosexuality because the Bible told him so. So he's speaking his convictions, in a very inspiring way. I just think he's wrong.
Oh yeah, 100%. That one is rough because it's, for whatever reason, like whenever I think about someone that's being homophobic, I immediately tie that to religion.
Yeah.
And more specifically the Bible and Christianity, because I guess like in the Bible there's like that part where man and woman or whatever. Like I used to be Catholic. Like I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school where we were next door to a church. We went to mass every week, and I went to a Catholic high school. So I grew up like in the religion, which is weird because neither of my parents are Catholic. So I was like, Mom, why the heck did you make me learn this religion if our family is Buddhist, right? I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I kind of adopted those religious ideologies because they're not mine, right? They were never mine. But I always find it very strange how in 2022, I feel like it's clearly proven that gay people should be able to live just like everyone else. And why should you care if one dude loves another dude, if one woman loves another woman? Like it should have no significant impact on your life. They love each other, right? They're just, if he loves that guy and that guy loves him back, then that's perfect. That's what you want in the world. You want to have more love. And this thing with religion that, it makes me sad because it breeds hate, right? It generally breeds hate in our society. And it's also like something that I'm trying to come to grips with because I have no religious ideology or identity whatsoever. Like I tried to, learn about Buddhism because my family is Buddhist, and there's a lot of good ideas there. There's a lot of interesting things. Do I go to the temple and pray? No, I don't do any of that type of stuff. But I haven't found like one type of religion where I can be like, that is the truth, and that is what I am going to base my morals around, where I'm going to say, like homosexuality is a bad thing, or like, gay people shouldn't have rights, or, all this type of stuff that I guess this guy believes in. And it is it drives me nuts that this still exists in 2022 when it's clearly wrong.
Yeah. It's mind blowing. I don't want to dive too deep into the rabbit hole of this topic because I could very easily talk about why this frustrates me for the next hour. But I'll give you a little maybe a little lead for what to talk about next. So I grew up in a city and had a mom that was like, think for yourself, question everything. And she's jokingly said that she regrets teaching me to do that. Oh. But she moved to a small town, and I was like, I very much butted heads with her and challenged a lot of her beliefs. And I think she was also afraid because she had this kid that was going to school who all of a sudden started doing very badly academically. I quit playing sports. And then I started doing things like starting my own religions, mocking religion publicly at the school, and was very much like a contrarian. And it was because of the very obvious and abundant hatred and racism and open homophobia signs like on the hallways of my school that said Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So I think all of that adversity and struggling to try to be authentic to me has kind of like helped me to be where I'm at now. But I used to hide from that stuff because embracing the things that made me different in high school and socially in high school, that meant that I was going to be excluded and I wouldn't have friends. And I had some great friends, but like most people didn't like me. And it was very obvious they didn't like me. So I wish I would have embraced that sooner. Like, and it's okay. And like just gone and found my people. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's like, with friends too, it's strange because as I said, I went to like Catholic school, right? All of my core group of friends that I've known since like grade 1, like we have a really tight knit group of friends that I've known my whole life, and they're all like Catholic, right? And it's interesting because then at our wedding, some of my friends like, oh, what church you gonna go to? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to a church, right? Because this like that's not my belief. Like I don't have to do that. Is that my tradition? Is that society's tradition? Do I have to do that? So I kind of like have that same mentality where your mom kind of wanted to have you question everything, where now that's what I'm sort of like. And when I got married, I don't know if my friends were offended, but they're sort of a little put off that we had like our ceremony outside of the venue and just had some dude. He's not a priest. He's like there's a word for him. He's like a legal person that can consummate marriage, but whatever. Like there was one of those guys, right? And officiant or something like that. And then, so I didn't do the marriage in the church. And then the other part of our wedding that I didn't really care about was like my wife taking my last name. And I was like, whose tradition is that? North America? Is that just society? You have to do that? I'm like, why? That's not something that I believe in. And so I told my wife, do you want my last name? Because I don't care. If you don't want it, then you can just keep yours. Because this is not my belief. And I'm not gonna do anything that society thinks that I should do just because everyone else does it. Right. And so I've had this kind of idea in my life later in life, because my parents never brought me up this way. They were more along the lines of, this is how you should live. You should be a good Catholic person, right? Because you should be someone that believes in God and goes to church and is friendly with people on a Sunday during a service in Mass, which is like a cool idea. Everyone gets together in this building and you all have a good time. And you're all friendly with one another and you're all cordial. Sure, right? But again, like none of these beliefs are my own. Right. And so I kind of think more openly now about what I believe in, what should I do, what should I follow, and not just go with the herd. Right. And not just be like, like as we were talking about the homosexuality stuff or the religious stuff, like don't follow just because everyone else does it. Right. So
did your wife take your last name? Good.
No.
Do you think?
Nope.
Alexis and I, and for context, for people listening, Alexis, my fiance, we actually just celebrated our 3rd-year anniversary of me proposing to her. I call her my forever fiance. But part of the hesitation is everything that you were just saying. We're like, how much do we do of what society expects, so on and so forth. Also, she's been married twice before, taking 2 different last names. So she's had 3 last names in her life, and it's a nightmare. But we do have this, and I want to ask you if this plays out in your relationship. You and I are very much so like, and this may be our ego and some trauma that we haven't dealt with yet, but we're very much people that are like, fuck what everyone is saying. I want to figure out my own way. And it may be what everyone's doing, or it may not. And the conflict that this presents in my relationship, and maybe all my relationships, but with Alexis, I'll be like, I don't care about you taking my last name. I don't care about this tradition. And sometimes she thinks that means that I'm saying I don't care about having our love and our union represented in a traditional way. So she sometimes thinks that that means that like I'm afraid of the commitment or I'm afraid of what it'll look like, instead of it's just me actually being like, I actually don't know what I believe in because I'm in a constant state of inquisition.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's tough, right? Because it's hard because especially in North America, because you live in the U.S., right? In Canada is we just basically follow what you guys do, and it's like the typical progression is you have to buy a diamond ring, right? You have to get down on one knee, you have to propose, you have to have the big wedding at a venue, and then go into church, and then your wife has to take your last name. And I'm always like, why do I have to do that?
Yeah.
Why? Says who? Is it a law? Does the government of Canada require my wife to take my last name? No, it doesn't. So why does she have to do that? Right. So like, I feel like those decisions where I don't care what the outcome is. Like, say, for example, if it genuinely bothered me that my wife didn't take my last name, then that would be a completely different conversation. But I thought about it and I'm like, would I care if Tina would just be Tina Bearzi or just have her regular name, Tina Tran? And I'm like, I don't think I would care at all, right? So then that was like the conclusion that I came out of that. But the problem is there is this expectation that your family will have on you when it comes to getting married, right? And it's tough because especially for my parents, like my dad is like old school European, Italian, like very traditional, right? And it's like, oh, it's great to have another Bearzi in the family. And then I'm like, well, yeah, but she didn't take the last name. And he's like, oh, why not? And then you have to get into that conversation, right? And it's like, oh man, like how do I explain?
What do you do about your
kid?
kids?
The
so
kids took my last name. I don't know. Like that was another thing where I was thinking like, what should the last name be? And I was like thinking it over. I'm like, do they have to take my last name? And then before I kind of went through that conversation and thought in my mind, my wife was like, oh yeah, they're going to take your last name. Like that was something that she wanted right away before I sort of thought it through. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And so that was the path that we chose.
How do you feel about ritual? Because we're kind of talking about the necessity of ritual in our society. And does it matter? So how do you feel about rituals, and not like societal typical rituals, but just in the purest form? Like, how do you feel about having a ritual for something?
It depends, right? There's tons of rituals that I follow personally that don't affect anyone else's lives. I think those type of rituals are fine, but it's the rituals and habits and routines that can affect other people in your life, that those are the ones that I think more about. Like, take for example, I don't know if you would call it a ritual or more of like a lifestyle, but my choice of diet through following a very strict intermittent fasting type of protocol. For me, that's like a type of discipline. It's like a ritual. It's a habit. It's my routine. It's something that I follow on a daily basis. But then it affects the lives of the people that I love in my family, right? Because my father, for example, he's a professional chef, right? And so food is something that he loves. And so like he might put all this effort into making this like amazing breakfast or lunch, and then I'm like a total asshole and I'm not eating. And he's like, oh, I just put all this work into doing this thing for you that's amazing, that I love to do, and that's my passion, and now you don't want to partake in it. So like I think about my habits and rituals and routines in a sense of, which ones only affect me, and I can be selfish with those type of rituals, but the ones that affect other people and the ones that I love are the ones that I think more deeply about. And I'm sure that you've thought about this too as well with your choice of going vegan. I remember I watched a video.
Don't tell people I'm vegan, bro. I'm just joking.
Why not? You know what's funny about that One of the things, to be perfectly honest, one of the things I really like about you and your beliefs and your content and your message is that a lot of the things that you do, I don't do at all. Like, say, for example, you are a vegan and I am not. I think you are an atheist,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I'm not. I'm agnostic. You are going on this crusade of quitting alcohol. I don't have problem with drinks at all. And then you also have this amazing streak of running, I think it's 1 mile for the past like 400 days or
Yeah.
something. And I hate
Yeah.
cardio. Like, these are all things in your life that you do and you talk about and you promote that I don't care about at all. Like, I have no interest in any of these things. However, even though the things that I do and the things that you do are completely different, we sort of end up at the same result where we're just trying to better our lives and live a more positive and fulfilling
Mhm.
life, and and try to promote this idea of self-improvement. And it's sort of like one of the things that I really like about you is because a lot of the things you talk about are things that I don't do. And I get this bad rap from some of my friends of being like a vegan hater, because I've had like two friendships that I lost because of, I guess, because of veganism. But from my point of view, I am someone that 100% supports the vegan diet. And you can tell right here, because if I was someone that hated veganism, why would I have someone on my podcast and why would I try to promote their work if they're openly vegan? That doesn't
I
make
guess
any
this
sense,
could
right?
turn into a smear piece at some point. From what I know about you, and the reason I think that we are drawn to each other is that our ethics are changing. And I have people in my life that say, you're so strict and you're so one way about everything. I'm like, that's not true. I just have very few things that I care about deeply. And it's because I've thought about them and made a conclusion. And I say, this is how I think about it. And when I hear someone that has a conflicting ideology or it's even similar, I want to make sure that it's like solid. So I will pick it apart. And most people, like you said, people are creatures of comfort. People are like, I don't need my ethics questioned. And I'm like, I do constantly. So I don't know
Mm.
about your vegan friends that you lost. And I also want to just throw out there that Cameron Haynes, the world's most famous bow hunter, follows me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So like clearly I'm cool with
Oh, yo, I love Cam Haynes. That guy's
dude, fucking go
inspiring.
look. I mean, he follows 6,000 people, but he followed me like a year ago because I was like saying, even though I'm a vegan and this guy's completely different than me, he's been shadow banned by Instagram, and you should go follow him if you want someone that's going to hold you accountable every day. Because this dude embodies, I think Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And he is that. And I'm trying to be that,
Mm.
because I don't want to explain to my kids my philosophy in life. I want them to see the way to live or how I live. And I want them to see, okay, especially like juxtaposed to like fat dad. I used to be fat dad and now I'm not fat dad. I'm like showing them the two ways you can live your life. There's one way where you can be a little bitch and fucking not question anything and try to remain in the comfort zone, which is going to make you more miserable. Or you can go out and actually like and push against the grain and challenge everything. And I think you and I fall into that latter group, which is, the
Mm-hmm.
proud, the few, the brave, or whatever they say in the Marines. So anyway,
I like the
yeah,
reference
yeah.
to the
Thanks for
Marines.
letting me go down that rabbit hole. Coming back out, throwing out some like word salad. But your vegan friends, what do you do to piss them off? Why do they hate you?
Um, so to make a long story short, the first one was someone that I was friends with for a long, long time. Super close with, would come over to my house, we'd play poker and all these different type of things. And this one was him pissing me
Yeah.
off, and then which was rough because what happened was my wife's mom got breast cancer, and then she
No,
passed
damn.
away. Um, and it was really hard because my wife has a younger brother, and at the time he was like in grade school, right? So we're talking about a kid that's like 13,
Mm-hmm.
12, and he lost his mom. Like, it was horrible, right? And what happened was my friend basically said that if she followed a vegan diet, she wouldn't
Oh
have
my
died.
God. Vegans
Now,
die.
my problem here, here's my problem though. Like, let's say, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's say you had scientific proof where meat causes breast cancer 100% of the time. Okay, let's say he had this like proof that he could show it to me and he could prove it to me. Regardless of that, you do not say that to someone who just lost their mother and they're grieving. Like this was like the week of
Oh
where
my
he
gosh.
said that, oh, I'm sorry to hear, but if your mom followed a more plant-based diet, then she would have been more healthy and she
He
wouldn't
said
have
that to your
got breast
wife?
cancer. Like,
Oh
yeah,
my
he said it
gosh.
to my wife, and it can make it freaking destroyed her. Like you don't say that to someone who's
Yeah.
grieving, right? And I lost my shit. Like I legit lost my shit, right? I'm like, dude, you're a terrible person, and this is why like I have this problem with not problem. This is why people sort of view me as someone that is a hater of the vegan diet, because I had a really, really bad introduction to veganism, because this was like the first person that I've ever I never heard about the vegan diet, like when you're 1999 2000 or whatever, like
Yeah.
in those times it's
Yeah.
not as well known, right? And so I never knew anyone that was vegan, and all of a sudden this guy, he's like legit telling me and my wife why she died. And I'm like, okay, well, fuck you, dude. Like you're a
Yeah.
terrible human being. Like that's not the point. The point is she is hurting, she is grieving, and you do not say that to someone, even if you are right. You
No.
don't say that to them. And then yeah, so that one was pretty bad. And the second one was a little bit more civil, but it was sort of like a friend that I would work out with on a regular basis at the gym. And this is more recent. And he watched the Game Changers. I think it's Game Changers documentary on
that
Netflix.
is. I mean, I don't
Is
know
that
for
it?
sure what he was referencing, but that is a very popular vegan film documentary. It's about fitness. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, right. And he was telling me about how we were comparing pre-workout meals, and he was telling me about how his vegan pre-workout meal is far superior to what I'm doing, and that I should be doing, following his advice. And you should eat this. I saw this on the Game Changers, and this guy talked about the protein and fats in cashew butter, and the complex carbohydrates in whole wheat veganic bread, and that if you combine them together, it's like this perfect mix of protein and fat to give you energy for your workout. And I was like, okay, cool, but that doesn't work for me. And he's like, no, but it's the best. It is the best scientific pre-workout meal that you should have. I'm like, yeah, for you, but not for me. He's like, no, but it is. I'm like, okay, dude, listen. If I eat your whole grain veganic bread with cashew butter, you're gonna have to get in my gym bag. There's something in there called an EpiPen, and you're gonna have to stab me in the leg with it and call 911, because I have a fatal allergic allergy to cashews, and I have a terrible allergy to whole wheat bread. So I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter what the scientific benefit of your pre-workout meal is. It does not
Yeah.
work for me. It doesn't. And he's like, oh no, that's bullshit. No, you're just making that up. You're not deathly allergic to. I mean, do you want me to show you my allergy test? I have horrible food allergies. I have to go to the allergist every single year since I was a kid. It's terrible. I have to get tested. I have to get all these like pricks in my arms and all these needles. Like it's a terrible thing that I have it, right? And it's like, I'm not lying to you. I'm not trying to disprove your amazing vegan pre-workout meal. And so then it just kind of snowballed from there. And he talked about, oh, you should eat this vegan plant-based pea protein powder. It's so much better than the whey isolate that you're having. I'm like, dude, can we just work out? Can we just work out?
Yeah.
Please? Like, no? Like, why? Like, why does it have to go here? And those were like my two introductions to like veganism with my friends. And I'm like, I hate this shit. And so like I was someone that I'll be honest with you, I hated this whole vegan stuff, right? And I was a dick when I was younger. I would post a picture of a barbecue on my Snapchat, and I would like hashtag vegan. Like I was a little shit, right? But
as a 21-year-old,
you're
you're a little shit. That's surprising.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like, but now, as you age, I'm like, okay, why do I have this hatred towards the vegan diet? And I tried to look at it objectively, right? And I looked at the research. I watched some of those documentaries, and so now I have this opinion that I'm a huge supporter of the vegan diet. I'm a huge supporter because I believe in health and nutrition, and these are things that are very important to me. The problem I have is like the veganism religion, where people try to push it on you, or they try to take this moral stance or high ground, like, oh, you're a terrible human being because your mom could have lived if she was plant-based and she
Dude,
didn't
that's
have
so
cancer. You know what I mean? Like that type of
crazy
stuff
to
is what
me
really
that you
kills me.
fucking had to experience that. I'm so sorry. We just had a friend pass away. She's like 42, from stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and she was like a heavy drinker and a smoker. And could that have definitely like been a cause of her getting cancer at an early age? Oh yeah, but it could have not been. But you know what? No one did. No one during the funeral was like, she was kind of an alcoholic. Like, it doesn't matter. That is so absurd. And also, don't hate all the vegans, man. Don't be one of those old white women that's like, I was robbed by a black gentleman when I was 12 and all of the blacks are bad. Please don't clip that. Please don't clip that. Don't share that one clip. Dear God. But
cut that one out.
Back to the Epictetus quote, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Like, I'll call people murderers and do stuff kind of like, I feel like it's tongue in cheek when I do it on Instagram, and people probably know that I'm just being an extreme goof. But that being said, like, I know that I talk shit sometimes, but when I'm being serious and sincere, and I hope people can tell, but most of what I'm doing is just me showing what I'm doing and the results and waiting for someone to be like, so how did you do this? Because I feel like that's the only way that I'm going to convince anyone to change their life, and not even change their life to like a vegan lifestyle or whatever. Like, man, why do I feel like I need to apologize on the behalf of your dumb friends? I'm not going to do that. That's codependent.
No, man, it's fine, bro.
Man.
It's fine. It happened many, many years ago, and I've become a better person, and I've not held that grudge. I to remove that from my life. And you know what's interesting too is I am a huge supporter of plant-based diets, because I'm someone who is obsessed with longevity.
Yeah.
I don't know if I talk about it seldomly in my channel, but I follow this guy, David Sinclair, who's a PhD, I believe in Harvard and all these crazy universities. And all of his field of work is on longevity, and not just living longer, but how do you live until you're 80 but feel like you're 60 and improve, your way of life. And through his research, it is scientifically proven that the best diets, I believe the top 4 or 5 are all plant-based, like without a doubt. Like, the research is undeniable. But the most important thing first, where he talks about, it's not just about what you eat. More importantly, it's about when you eat. And fasting, specifically time restricted eating and eating less meals, is one of the best things you can do for your life in terms of living longer and being a lot more healthier. But when you get into the what we eat, right, it's all plant-based. I think the top 4 diets were like, I think pescatarian. Pesco vegetarian. Yeah, that was first. I might get this order wrong. Mediterranean was up there. Okinawa diet was 3rd, I think. Vegan was 4th, and then just like a simple vegetarian was 5th. But it's all plant-based, and all the meat animal product diets were all lower on that list. And it's all scientifically proven that if you add intermittent fasting, or eat less meals, don't eat 3 meals a day plus snacks, like that's horrible for you. If you can eat less meals plus more plants in your diet, that will just improve your lifespan, improve your longevity. And that is what I am obsessed with. So objectively, I am someone who 100% supports plant-based diets, right? And it's one that it's undeniable. Like, if you go through the evidence, it's undeniable.
David Sinclair is great. I've listened to him on Rich Roll's podcast a few times, and I try to eat the way that you're talking about eating. I can't get over, and I can't figure out how to stop eating in the middle of the night. I think I just need to like convince myself that I'm not going to do it, because if I'm like very aware of it throughout the day, and I go to sleep saying, I don't care if you get up, John, and you go downstairs. You can drink a sparkling water. You can have a still water, but you are not going to have a bowl of cereal. You are not going to have a cold bratwurst. Vegan bratwurst, obviously. But and I can't figure out if I'm not getting enough calories, and And that's why I'm waking up eating. I know that part of it, and this is embarrassing to admit, that I spent a long time being a bartender and going and doing an open mic, and then coming home and drinking and being drunk, eating food at 3 a.m, 2 a.m.
Oh, I see.
So like my ghrelin levels are like still like higher at 2 a.m. So ghrelin's the thing that's like telling you need to eat now. This is normally when we take in calories. So I think it's probably the latter. But
I see.
yeah, I'm also trying to figure out, I guess I still fast when I'm running unless it's like a big effort. Like if I'm going to do a 2-hour run or more, I will make sure I put calories into my body first thing in the morning. But generally, like I wake up, coffee, water, and then I break fast around like noon or 2 o'clock, depending on what I'm doing. Yeah, it's very Buddhist of you too, by the way, to stick to that regimented eating cycle. I think those people are done eating at like 3 p.m. and asleep at 6.
Oh, yeah. The eating, the fasting thing is very interesting because I found it very, very seamless. It was a very seamless transition for me because I don't like breakfast like at all. Like even when I was younger, growing up, I didn't care for breakfast. I'm never hungry in the morning. I don't like eating bacon and eggs and toast and orange. Like I don't like any of that stuff. Like I just feel like heavy and I feel like death and I feel slow and I feel like it just slows me down. So when I found out about intermittent fasting and skipping breakfast and then pushing your fasting window later and later in the day, it was so easy for me. I was like, oh, I don't eat in the morning anyway. So I just got to keep pushing it.
Yeah.
And so now I have these days where I normally go maybe 22 to 23 hours. Like I just go like dinner to dinner. And so I've been able to overcome breakfast and lunch and snacks all together. I just kind of just keep pushing it. And what's interesting is that once I get to dinner, like you're in this ravenous hunger state where you just like crush everything. But then when you eat that much food at once, like your stomach is full. And I'm just like, I'm done. Like I'm so full. I can't eat anything. I can't eat anymore. And so my body, I guess, naturally kind of got adjusted to it because it's been 7 years now, 8 years. So I've been following fasting on a pretty much a hardcore daily basis. And for some people, it's tough because I have a lot of friends, like my wife, for example. My wife loves breakfast. Like she loves waking up and cooking like a really nice breakfast. And she's a chef too. Like she went to culinary school. So she's like my dad, where they have this appreciation for food, where they view food as an art form. Like they love the color, they love the presentation, they love the plating, they love making things from scratch. Like they're very into the food world, and it's hard for me because I see the passion and effort they put into it, and then I'm like being an asshole. Oh, I don't eat breakfast, right? And it's kind of tough because there's all this temptation for me to eat in the morning, but because I never really cared for it, it was like I said, a very easy transition for me.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to you talking about your dad making you breakfast and you not wanting to eat it. That's a bad business move because you need to know your market, right? Sorry if your dad's listening. I'm sorry.
There's
damn creatives. They don't know how to sell their way. They don't know how to sell their way out of a paper bag, man. Yeah, that is true for a lot of reasons, but mostly because creative people have an interest in everything, and that's not how business necessarily works. And I've got like a couple clients right now that I'm working through that process with. I'm like, just pick a thing and do it every day for a while. And then like,
so how's the business going? How's the freelance work?
It's good, man. I've got a recurring client that's bringing in a decent amount of revenue. I have a commercial that I filmed that if you have any creative people listening to this, by the way, I literally filmed one of the most expensive commercials I've ever filmed. And I didn't use any studio lights. I used a reflector card, and used my EOS R with a $200 plastic lens because I didn't know for sure when the shoot was going to be, and I didn't want to rent a couple like prime lenses. So I had my 20 to 70 zoom, and then I have a 50 millimeter plastic lens that I want to upgrade. I just haven't done it yet. So. And they were very, very happy with it. It was a beautiful location, and it was a very sunny day, and we knew it would be a sunny day, and it's a beautiful spot. But like I literally used so little equipment. But it's going well. I'm working on a doc right now about a local guy named Ron Miner. It's went by DJ Indiana Jones, and I'm trying to figure out what the story is right now. We've done like 20 interviews kind of about how amazing the guy is, but I'm trying to find what the story arc is going to be. So it's like an exciting time, but that's not really like part of the freelance world.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like the documentary you made about that guy. I can't remember his name, but he had like the glasses and the beard.
Yeah, Neil.
Oh yeah, that's it, Neil. Yeah, it was good. And
Nice.
Did you have it premiere at a film festival?
At a movie theater. It was a movie theater playhouse. I think maybe it started out as a playhouse and then it was a movie theater, and now it's like a hybrid of the two. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
And
see.
they didn't approach me. I didn't submit or anything. I actually called in a favor to a guy that ran for mayor of the city I used to live in. I met him when I went to this like crime watch, neighborhood watch meeting. And I saw a guy in a suit, and he's like talking to everyone, shaking their hands. And I was like, "You seem important. Are you a lawyer or a politician?" He said, "I'm both." And I was like, "That's awesome." We made a contact, had a few coffee meetings or whatever. And then during 2020, I was like sick of being a armchair activist. And I started calling people, and I was like, "What do I do?" And no one had any answers for me. But then I remembered Neil, the subject of the film. I was like, I bet you he's volunteering somewhere. And I have all this like volunteer footage of him. I was like, I bet you I can make something from this. I called him and went and did that. Had the film. That was a freaking journey. I sat on footage for a year and didn't know what I was going to do. And then after I made the film and premiered it on YouTube, I was driving around and I was like, there's got to be something else I can do with this film. I honestly didn't think it was good enough to put into a film festival. But I was like, I can show this in front of people. I used to run punk shows, and then I also organized those. I sold merch for my band. And then with comedy, I ran comedy shows and did like independent DIY stuff. So I'm like very like I understand that there's a way to like self-fund projects and just to put it out there and, you know, see if people show up. So I was like, I can do this with this film. I don't know how. And I called the guy that was a mayor, he ran for mayor, lawyer dude. And he's like, let me call someone. So we called the theater in the town, and I went, and they were like talking to me about how inspiring it was that I was a dad that was a waiter, and I grabbed a camera and I became a filmmaker and all this stuff. And I said to them, that's so amazing. And I was crying, and I just watched this TV show called Made about a single mom becoming a writer. And I was like, I was a single dad, and now I'm a filmmaker. And I was like, my dreams are coming true. And I was like, thank you guys so much. To hear you say that my film has touched you in this way, it means so much to me. And they both looked at me and said, oh, we haven't seen your film. We just got referred to you by this guy. And that's when I was like, the industry's bullshit. I don't care about film festivals. And if you're, if you're out there and you're trying to like make it work as a creative and you're trying to leave your job or you're trying to like start a side hustle, really, be nice and be kind, be on time and meet people, because that's truly the only thing that matters. Yes, you need to be good, but like no one even watched that film until it got played. Like the only reason people came out was because of the work I'd done in the community and because I've made a film about a guy that was like so important in the community. Like even when the local news station came out and the guy was sitting at this table with me across from me and interviewed me. And I said, have you seen the film? And he's like, no. I was like, you're going to put me on TV and this film could literally be 2 Girls, 1 Cup in the middle of the film and you guys don't know. It's so fucking mind-blowing, man.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, so work's going great, man. It's awesome. I'm excited to hone in on my craft more, and I don't know, I'm kind of getting in a stride, getting in a groove. I really want to figure out the YouTube thing. I think right now for me, it's going to be talking about being sober. Those are like, I've been getting consistently like more than 100 views in my 48-hour period, which is like, it's big for my channel. It was like 0 views for several months, and I couldn't figure out how to distinguish myself. And people are gravitating towards this like how to quit drinking kind of like stuff I've been putting out. So hopefully the pieces come together.
Yeah, no, it's it's good. Another thing I wanted to tell you is your thumbnails are getting a lot better. thumbnails are something that I hate. I hate thumbnails. I'm not very good at them. I have Photoshop. I'm not I don't know. I'm just not good at making thumbnails, and it's something I don't really care for. Right? It's like the last thing I want to think about. But one thing I did notice with your channel is it has very clear direction now, and the thumbnails are a lot more, I guess, vibrant or brighter. Like they just seem a lot more better. And I think that if you were to double down on these like main concepts of quitting booze, veganism, running, like I feel like if you double and triple down on these ideas, you have a very clear identity of what your channel is, and add the good thumbnails with that. I feel like that's a recipe for success. Whereas for myself, that's what I always struggle with. I don't have a very clear identity. I'm like all over the place. Like one time I'm talking about working out, and then I'm talking about politics, and then I'm talking about gambling. Like I'm just everywhere, and I don't have a very clear identity or direction. And I feel like that's something that I really see now in your channel. Like, oh, like 30 days, no booze. Okay, yeah, like I get it. That makes sense. Like that's what Jon is on this path. Or, oh, I ran a mile for a year straight. I'm like, oh, okay. I kind of get that. You're like into the whole running thing, right? And so I feel like you have a very, or at least for me as a viewer, I have a very clear idea in my mind of what your identity is as a content creator. And I think naturally that is just going to get you more views. As you can see, your channel is definitely growing.
So that's cool to hear you say that you think that vegan, running, sobriety, all are like, that's like very niche. Because I've had people tell me that aren't YouTube people, but they're like, you should pick just one thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, I have with alcohol. But I also think that like my banner could say sober vegan runner, LOL or whatever, because it's like a type of person. But that's like that's for sure a thing, And like I can lean into the document versus create, but then also like try to enhance storytelling and thumbnails. I don't know. With you, man, I think that your intention is the same every time. So maybe I wouldn't be so hard on yourself about like finding your thing. You're like authentically you. And I heard Sinbad say this recently, that he doesn't have his niche is his emotion that he brings. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. See, like my decision making at the end of the day is I have like no time to work on creative stuff because I have a day job, right? I have 2 kids, and I just bought a house that I moved into 2 months ago that I have to maintain. And just like being a good husband, like you know what that's like. There's all these things that suck your time. So in the brief moments where I have like 40 minutes to record a video, like at 2 at night, 2 a.m., like before I go to bed, because I'm like dead tired. Like that's the only window that I have to make a video. The only thing I can talk about are things that are really happening in my life and things that interest me. And so I don't have time to think about like, oh, what is a good keyword or subject or title that I can, double down and triple down on. Whereas I have such a limited window where I can do anything creative at all. I just do what I love. I just do what I love because that will keep me creating on a daily basis in the long term. And so maybe if I know this is like a terrible excuse. Oh, I wish I had more time. It's like a horrible excuse. And I'm always critical of when people say that. But it's just like, managing your time in a way that keeps you in the game is what's the most important. And at this very moment, with like a 2-week-old baby that's screaming and a 2.5-year-old daughter who's going through terrible twos and, waking up in the middle of the night and yelling and living off of energy drinks and going on like 2 hours of sleep most nights, it's hard to be creative, and it's hard to have a video that's inspiring or that makes sense where I'm like dying, like I'm like exhausted. But I think like just doing what I love for now is what will just keep me in the game until I can, figure it out more long term.
Yeah. Do you care if I talk with you about time and potentially how to structure what you're doing? I love doing this stuff.
Go ahead.
It's all about the desired outcome. And if the desired outcome for you is just to put out content with regularity and the way that you are right now, awesome. If the desired outcome is like, I want to make better videos. I want to figure out how to do that. I just don't have the time to do it. Maybe you could look at like, let's say you're spending, we'll just round up and say an hour a week you could use, instead of an hour a week to create, the content you're doing now and the quantity you are now, you could maybe scale down the quantity of output, have the work be the same, and have the work be focused into like a smaller quantity, and maybe put out like one polished like video essay style a month. And if that works more, then you can maybe, I hate to say sacrifice, but like reposition time to maybe do 2 videos a month or whatever it is. But it's all like, the desired outcome. Like if you're happy with what you're doing, then keep doing it. That's the hardest thing about being creative. Like Alexis and I actually got into like a mini fight last night because I was like, I'm going to do comedy again in my life. Like it's going to be me telling stories in front of an audience that is informative, entertaining, and, get some laughs. And I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but like, I'm going to be very specific about what I want in my life. And then she's like, does that mean it's going to take away time from us? I was like, no. I was like, it can literally be an extension of what I do. Like I made a vision board about my 5-year plan and I was too vague with it. But Sorrel Amore had said something about her vision board and putting herself on stage with a microphone and then stick figure in a crowd. And she didn't know how it was going to happen, but it did. Similar thing to me. I put that on my vision board and I was on stage with like a local celebrity talking about my film. And then yesterday I was listening to Louis C.K. on Andrew Schultz, and I was like, everything he said about why he does comedy, I was like, that is exactly why I want to be in front of people again. And I'm going to start being more specific with my goals. But now is the point that I'm trying to make, that as a creative, you can, and as an entrepreneur, and both of those things, they're so abstract. And to have success in it, I think you need to know what the desired outcome is. And then however you get there is fine. But if you're very specific about like 1 or 2 things you want, I think you will get there. So defining that is so important. And I think that you're going to do that on your own. But someone that's listening to this is kind of struggling to like figure out what they want. Say 1 or 2 things that are non-negotiable and then work to get there. And define those things before you go into your like work sessions or your creative sessions.
Yeah, it's a lot to like to take in and to think about, and it's something that I always like. I have goals in my what's my journal? Like my journal's over there, on the last page of my journal, I have like these goals for the year that I always like read to myself. Right, there's always like these business goals that I have, but there are these like life goals that I've really been working on this past year. And everyone talks about like, oh, money, building a business, going to work, building up your income. And I always had this idea like, why do I want money? Like, what is my reason for having money? Right? You got to like figure out like what is your end goal with having money. And I came to the conclusion that like all I want is I just want a house where I can raise my kids, that they can have a backyard to play in, and I can build my own studio for content creation in the basement, and I can destroy walls and rip up the floor, do whatever I want to do to the house because it's my home. Like that is my only goal for monetary gain. And so like for this long time, I've been, working and saving and all this stuff and just building up this one end goal that I have in my life. And I achieved that 2 months ago, which was kind of surreal because I kind of like bought my dream house. And now all this weight is like lifted off my shoulders because I don't have any monetary goals anymore. I just kind of save for the sake of saving. I save for a rainy day. I save for an emergency. I save if like one of my family members gets into like an accident or like a car breaks down. Like that's my only reason for money now. Now I don't really care. So I don't really have any goals anymore because I've achieved that goal. However, that has put my creative goals in the back seat in my life for far too long. Right. And so I've always been sacrificing for these personal monetary goals that I have, where now I'm like, you know what, now I need to think more about my creative goals. Like, what do I want to do in this office studio that I have in my basement right now? Like, what do I want to do with it? And the answer is I want to have more podcasts like this one we're having right now, have more conversations, do more live streams, record more YouTube videos. Like there's so many things that I want to do and juggle now creatively. Like that's my problem. It's like I want to do too much. Like I'm almost too ambitious to a fault. Where like I love this podcast right now. Like this conversation we're having, I'm engaged. It's super interesting. but then I could be making a YouTube video with this hour right now. So now I'm like, what do I do? How do I juggle this? So I think that's
Yeah.
my main issue
Oh
right
man.
now.
Are you familiar with? First, congratulations on getting all of that. I also no longer have monetary goals other than like I've defined what enough is for me. And now, while Alexis is grinding out at her job, which she had said when we first started dating, I never want to have a man support me financially. And then she ended up manifesting the most extreme thing. It's like, be careful what you wish for whenever you have a genie. It's like she ended up supporting me financially for a while, and it's still like, she makes she probably makes 70% of the income that comes into the house right now. And that number was higher a few years ago, but she's done that. And now I'm like trying to figure out like, what are the different streams of income? I think we calculated last night, we have like 8 streams of income. It's like, okay, how do we fill up the other buckets? So that way we can maybe drop off one, which would be her office job. So it's more lifestyle goal. So congratulations to you on that. But what I'm hearing you say reminds me a lot of myself, and also reminds me of this lesson in Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism. He talks about learned helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this concept? And I'll share it real quick. It's like an experiment with dogs, and the floor was electric, and there was a control where the floor wasn't electric. And these dogs that had been shocked before by the floor, when you put them onto a floor that wasn't electrified, they would still lay down like they were scared to get shocked. They had learned that like a shock was coming and there was no point in fighting. I think they're trying to get to food or whatever. Like, you can learn to be you learn to be helpless. You learn to think that you have no way out of like your predicament. And the way this presents in itself, like in society, is that some people have learned that they are helpless and then they don't do anything about it. Other people have also learned that they're helpless, but instead of not doing anything and not taking action, what they do is they take a lot of action, but it's not concentrated action. And these are like the people that are like sometimes the overachievers at work that never get like even to management status because they're saying yes to every job. Like they don't take the time to step back and look at the situation as a whole. They're always busy. They're never using their critical brain. And these people are also helpless. They just are presenting their feeling of helplessness in a different way.
That's interesting. Oh yeah, I read that book, but it was there's so much information in that book that just is lost to me. You ever have that? You read some books and there's a couple core ideas that stick, but then
I
the
can't
rest
show you right now, but I've got like
1 year.
I've got books all throughout the house. I've got stuff next to my nightstand, which I'm trying to read right now, and I want to make a better habit of reading. But there's also some books that are above our coats in the mudroom, and those are books that are like the Daily Stoic. It's kind of like the history of philosophy, and then there is Hafiz poem book, and then Essentialism is up there. And those books are strategically up there because I can pick them up and gain some kind of nugget of wisdom periodically. So this like the learned helplessness thing was I was procrastinating doing work and I grabbed that book and then I read that piece and I thought about myself with content creation and how I would make an Instagram video and then I would switch to YouTube and then I would be like, I'm going to do Twitter every day for 30 days. And one of the ideas for a YouTube video is why you are helpless. And I want to do a better job explaining the dogs and like what Greg McKeown's saying. And I have this idea of sharing all these funny different ideas for businesses or content creation that I come up with when I'm feeling helpless. Because I know the focus right now is like, I was fat, Dad, and now I'm not. And I did it by being a vegan and a runner. And here's how you can do it too. Also, I quit drinking. But then I'll get distracted from that. And one of the ideas I have is to share all the different ideas I have when I'm getting distracted and I don't have the confidence. And one of them is I thought about doing a Jesus Reacts like YouTube channel. And I wanted to I had this vision of doing a reel and a short form piece of content that's Jesus reacting to the Passion of the Christ. And I'm like, oh my God, why? Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy JC. This is one of the most requested Reacts videos I get. And be like, that is me feeling helpless. It's a funny idea, but it's like, it doesn't align with the work that I'm doing. I'm putting too many different pieces inside of this like machine. It needs 2 cogs just to get going. Not like 40 different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
funny. Jesus, Rick.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. I think it is
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
And I'm kind of afraid to do
That's
it too,
funny,
but
bro.
whatever. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, man. Just
Need to teach people about being
just
helpless.
do it, right? Do it, especially if it's like something that makes you laugh or something that's fun. Like that's like one of the best things about content creation, right?
I've been doing that more, and I love it. I was afraid to be funny. And if you watch my older YouTube videos, I feel like a phony because I was like pudgy in my face, and I'm talking so slow. Like I haven't figured out yet that YouTube you can, and you should probably talk fast and cut more if you want to be engaging. I'm not a lecturer. I didn't need to be like, so today I will teach you about how to be better. But I've been making stuff now that's like I throw in some humor. I did the pink cloud thing in my last sobriety video, and I'm like, ooh. And I giggled when I did that. When I made the Plant King video, I laughed the whole time. The whole time I did that, I laughed. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff I need to pursue. I need to like have an idea that's serious, but then I need to be like, how do I make this more absurd? Because it brings me so much joy, man.
Yeah, that Liver King video is funny. That guy is a wild dude.
Dude, I thought that video was gonna do so much better, and like I put it up, and then I got like a few hundred views almost instantly, and I was like, oh my god! I was like, I got picked up in the YouTube algorithm, and then I looked at my analytics, and then my buddy messaged me and said he put it on Reddit. I was like, oh.
Okay.
So it's gotten like very few organic views on YouTube, and I haven't figured out yet whether or not getting external views fucks with YouTube suggesting your video.
No idea.
I don't either.
Yeah, that whole analytics stuff is one huge mystery that I used to kind of look into a lot because I have videos that have really high retention and click-through rate that do really well, like view wise.
Yeah.
But then I have others that have like above 50% retention with like 8% click-through rate that just do terrible. So I'm like, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
So does like retention and click-through rate not equate to views, or does it? Like I don't understand what's good anymore. So I gave up.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, you would think that it's just the attention and the amount of time it keeps people on the platform. So maybe there's some other we'll just throw out conspiracy theory or that ideas that are more marketable get the thing. If it's just strictly analytics, there's some other analytic, like the amount of like average views per person you get on the video, but like 50% retention rate seems pretty high. Maybe those videos though are fall into a bucket of like creators that are getting even higher click-through rates and getting even more retention because self-development is such a competitive market. And that's why I'm honestly kind of leaning really hard into the not drinking thing too, because it's like that is definitely self-development, but it is a very, very narrow niche inside of self-development. Mm-hmm. And if I can convince the people that like my sobriety videos to just fucking click on a running video, come on, guys. If you like me, click on a running video. No one's clicking on I ran for 100 days video. But like that might get pushed out to other places eventually one day. I don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea, right?
know.
It's one, like I said, one giant mystery with the whole algorithm stuff. But you know what really bothers me the most? This is something that doesn't apply to you because this is like strictly Canadian. But there's like these Canadian laws now, especially in the province that I live in, that are going to handicap the way algorithms push out content. And this is very scary because I don't know if you know anything about Canada, but like we're this super.
I know. I watched Chris Howe talk about this.
Chris Howe, the videographer.
Chris and Lizzie, yeah.
It's tough because our country, we don't have freedoms like what you guys have. Like we don't have the Second Amendment or freedom of speech. Like we don't have these rights in Canada. Like you can be a comedian and you can be charged criminally for things you say on stage because we don't have freedom of speech rights.
That's
right?
insane.
And Canada is slowly slipping in towards this socialist country where our government is pretty liberal. Like our government in power now is liberal, but we're sliding so far left that we're becoming like this socialist semi-dictatorship where now if you want to play poker And this just happened like this last week. If you want to play poker on like Poker Stars, like online poker, you have to play on PokerStars.Ontario now. You can't play with the rest of the world because Canada wants to keep the money within province. So I'm like, who is going to play that? Like, who is going to want to play that? That's so dumb. And they want to do the same thing with YouTube, where they want to push Canadian content on Canadian viewers. So for me, for example, I might want to watch about, I don't know, gun control or something, or like Texas barbecues. I don't know, like something American. But because I'm in Canada, the algorithm is going to push French Canadian heritage soap operas on me, or French Canadian culture, because it's part of being Canadian in my algorithm. And now the views that you're going to get is going to be controlled by a form of government. And that is something that's like extremely scary for me. And now I no longer worry about the algorithm itself. I worry more about like our government stepping in and screwing all of this stuff up. And I'm genuinely fearful that, Canadian channels are just going to die because we're going to be removed from the YouTube community.
So can you use a VPN?
So it sounds like you can or cannot, because they're also going to flag creators that are based in a certain country. So like my friends are looking into moving into the US because like if they're based in Canada, their account is flagged as Canadian. So they're not sure if a VPN would work.
Yeah, if you've already established yourself too, like if you started an account today with a VPN and you sourced yourself out of like America or wherever else in the world, I don't think that there would be any way, unless they're tracking you through the network and like where your physical location is, but it masks your IP address, like I can log in right now and watch Netflix from any continent that I want. It's pretty easy. I actually should have done it sooner. But I'm wondering now also about poker. I'm like, I don't need to play poker, especially watching your video about gambling. But I'm like, okay, can I log in with a VPN and play poker in another country? I'm like, I don't need to explore this. And if you know the answer, maybe tell me off here, or you can say here. I don't need to know, but I want to know. Like, can I log in and play Poker Stars in Germany and then maybe get a German bank account? I don't know.
I believe you can, but it's like risky. And I've heard people doing it and then getting their accounts banned and money confiscated and that type of stuff.
Yeah, dude. I played cards in some different like international rooms. And I would put like $10 in or whatever because I knew I couldn't get the money after the Black Friday down here. And I put in $5. Oh, actually, I got a $5 card, like a bonus, or like here's a free $5. And I played penny tables for a few days and then got that up to like a couple $100, played like a couple like $20 tournaments, had multiple screens, got up to $10,000.
Hey.
And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this money. So when I was drunk, I was like, I'll just play like some, I don't know, like 50, 100 tables. It got back down to zero real quick.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's like I could have thought of a way to get the money like out of the system, But I had no like, dude, I didn't even have social media until like 4 years ago.
Oh, really?
Like once, dude, yeah. So when I quit my job and Alexis had started making money at work, I quit my job as a waiter and I fell into this like dark, deep depression and stuff. But like I had an Instagram that I thought I should have for comedy, but I never used it. Never made a post. I only followed 2 people and never even had it on my phone. So I same thing with Facebook. So I started like getting on like Instagram and Facebook, and then I like was introduced to Gary Vee and stuff like for the first time like 4 years ago. And I was like, oh shit, you can make money online. I was like, you can just make money as a freelancer. Like all of this stuff is like completely new to me, like in the last 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. But we're so fortunate that we have had access to the free internet for so long. And it seemed like it was just a matter of time before shit like what's happening to you started happening. If it's not already happening, we don't know about it. So
yeah,
dude, message me any questions you have about this. Like, just like DM me and stuff. And like, let's like open a dialogue and maybe I'll ask some people I know that are more tech savvy to help you try to fucking figure a way out of it. If there is a way.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's because I have a love-hate relationship with Canada. I'm someone that is very pro-American, and I know that the U.S. has tons of problems, especially like your healthcare system and homelessness and all these. Of course, there's gonna be problems, but over here there is this tendency to make fun of America and like have this hatred towards them. But I'm always like, dude, if we go to war, who's gonna protect us? We're not gonna protect ourselves. The U.S. is gonna
Yeah.
protect us. You're like our
Yeah.
big brother. And I'm someone that's very pro military. I'm very pro police. I'm very pro like anything anti-terrorism, right? And I feel like America does a great job at doing that. But what also you guys do really well is freedoms. Well, in the past, maybe you did it more better or whatever. But now Canada is
Those
just
are going
like
away.
we're just going the complete opposite direction where we're just going through censorship and control, and then government is stepping in on everything, and like our taxation is insane. And so like at the end of the day, I'm wondering like, am I still gonna live here? Can I move? Like now I just bought this home and like it's near a school that I want my kids to go to. It's closer to my parents where they retired. So I'm like stuck in this predicament where I'm like, what do I do if the Canadian government pulls the plug on social media and content creation and they prevent me from doing something that I love to do with my life? And that's where I'm going to get in a really sticky situation with what I want to do moving forward. And it's something that it really concerns me because it's really scary with the way that our country is progressing, and it just seems backwards to me. It's I don't know,
Yeah.
it's terrible, man.
Well, I'll keep building out Awoken Dudes, and then you can be like have a guest segment, and you can send me your clips that I'll put up onto my channel, and then we'll figure out a way to generate revenue, and then I'll just send it to you in a Canadian check.
That'd be funny.
Yeah. My timer's going off. I've got a couple minutes left, and I have to go and be a dad.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Let's wrap up the pod. This was like an awesome conversation.
Thanks, man.
Let me see. Let's okay, so anyone that's watching this and wants to know more about Jon's work, who is a super interesting, I'll call him my favorite vegan runner. That's also a filmmaker. You can find his content on YouTube. Just search for Jon Kuhn. I believe it's JONKUHN, or his other YouTube channel, which is Awoken Dudes. Very introspective guy, well read, well thought out, even though a lot of his ideas are ones that I don't believe in or follow. But I do honestly believe that it's very important that you should listen to people that have differing perspectives and differing opinions, especially ones that are extremely reasonable and intelligent. And that's what I think Jon does a great job at doing. So for everyone that's watching, check his stuff out, follow him. I'll leave links in the description, the YouTube channel, and in the Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that stuff. You can find all the links to his work. So thanks again, Jon, for doing this, and we should definitely do it again in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Peace, love, and plants. Namaste, all that shit.
I love
Stay
it.
awesome.
Eat your vegetables.